game from Zamalek there. At least pull something back for Illumina as they takes the Realm Walk Taxi out of the base. Minions are actually going to come back to the lane as well. It's funny. Quite cute. Oh, no.
Go for it.
Tower.
Go for it, George.
No.
Yes, you can do it. Yes.
No.
Yes. 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 Go on, my son.
Are you kidding?
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the Baron.
One of the quickest games in competitive history.
Oh God! How did that connect my angel? Shockwave onto 4. Double kill for him on this Jinx. That was disgusting.
Carmine Corporate damage as EU Masters champions.
Hello everybody and welcome to the welcome to the Amazon EU Masters. Here we stand, George the Cannon Minion. My name is Hiprain and I am joined by the ever amazing head, Jamada, as we are getting ready to go into the final day of the group stages. Yesterday, we rounded out Group C with Big and Fnatic taking their spots, and we had some pretty good games, especially to me, the one that stands out was that Game 6, where it was the battle for first between Fnatic and Big, but, you know, we're reversing all the way back to the beginning of yesterday. We had some banger games.
Yeah, we did. It kind of just felt like start to finish. There wasn't really a bad game at all. Kicked off with Z10 versus Big. For Z10, you know, they had to win this game if they wanted to keep their hopes alive. Obviously 0-3 starting off the day. But unfortunately, Big just got the better hand of them. To be honest with you, Z10 just kind of slowly rolled over, and Big with a superior team. And Fnatic Rising, very happy to see them performing, obviously coming from the region. But very, very proactive against Illumina here. Illumina, you know, I think they definitely had their moments, had their chances, but just sat a little bit too far back and allowed Fnatic to play their game.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is Fnatic Rising versus Illumina. We had some Kennen ups, we had some Kennen downs, but this was absolutely a Kennen up. Really, really amazing stuff from Pride on the Kennen. And, you know, Pride's had a pretty good tournament. And speaking of people who've had a great tournament, Dale on, like, for the Fnatic mid laner, he came in and replaced Featherman during the playoffs of the NLC. And he was kind of I wouldn't say he was bad, but he was obviously definitely new to the roster. But he came in on fire to this tournament. Has had a fantastic group stages so far. They've made it now through to the playoffs. And Big finding this win over Illumina, knocked Illumina out of the running to make it out of the group stages. And it was one of the most one-sided games I think we've had all tournament long.
Yeah, it was really ridiculous. I can't recall the kill score itself, but I don't think Illumina had more than 5 compared to Big, well up into the 20s. So yeah, Illumina, unfortunately, Big just absolutely thrashed them. Nothing else to really say about this game, to be honest with you. And it set up for a very fun 6th game of the day, Big versus Fnatic, because of course fighting first seed, but they're also in the same gaming house. They're sharing the same facility. We spoke to Big's coach, I believe, at the very start of the day yesterday, and he said, yeah, we want to have that sort of land in-house against each other. It'll be really fun. And of course, it was Big that ended up besting Fnatic. Yeah, very, very exciting match.
But it's crazy because, you know, a lot of the fights came down to the positioning of Bean and Kedawee, and that really decided some of those fights. I think Maxi had an amazing game versus Big, but in that last team fight, you saw he was just entirely zoned out and unable to join it. Melanic did a great job of denying him that. Apparently speaking is hard and I'm bad at my job, but let's have a look at the standings. So today we'll be deciding out who makes it out of Group A. At the moment, technically all teams have a shot of making it out, but the Novices are going to have a lot fall in their favor, along with them finding a 3-0 day. So it's going to be a hard one for them, but we are looking at Go Rogue, UCAM and Misfits Premier. Out of Group B, Movistar and PDW have made it out. Big and Fnatic out of Group C, Carmine Corp and Vodafone Giants out of Group D. Genuinely a pretty rough one either way, because like whoever you're facing, these second seeds are still just as scary as the first seeds from the groups. And this is today's action. We've got some corkers. I think game 1, 3 and 6 are going to be absolutely amazing, Jamada.
Yeah, totally agree. Obviously UCAM Misfits, right? If Misfits win their game against UCAM, that is guaranteed first place. No one else can catch up to them. So they're going to want to win this game, and for UCAM, taking this win means, you know, the opportunity at the very, very least to force a tiebreaker at the end of the day. And like you say, 3 and 6 as well.
Yeah.
A lot of hype around those games for me.
And just as a note, we will be doing the draw show. Well, I don't know if the draw's happening live, but there will be the results of the draw at the end of today. So we will know where the who will be playing who. So make sure, you know, after the 6th game, you hang around. Or potentially tiebreakers. We'll be doing those as well today if we have to have tiebreakers. But at the end of today's show, we'll be able to let you know who's playing who going into the games starting on Thursday. Yes, Thursday.
Yes.
Anyway,
Thursday.
Let's turn our attention towards our first game of the day. I've had a brain fart. Everything's gone wrong. We're going to have UCAM versus Misfits Premier. These are the 2 front runners in Group A. At the moment, Misfits Premier are undefeated, 3-0. UCAM 2-1. This is obviously the LFL's first seed in Misfits Premier. They beat out KC, the current standing champions of the European Masters, and the 2nd seed from the Superliga in Spain, UCAM. So it is going to be a hype and a very important game for both of these teams.
Yeah, like as kind of highlighted before, right? If Misfits Premier win this game, that's it. They are first seed, and it's going to be over to effectively UCAM and Agresivoo to fight out for that 2nd spot. Maybe an North, you never know. Depends on how the day goes. But yes, obviously highlights from the last time these 2 teams met, all the way back on day 1. I want to say it was, and yeah, very, very, very hype stuff. I think for me, coming into this game, it's a lot is going to be on the bottom side of the map. I think Woolite has been able to be, he's been able to be enabled quite frequently. And I was actually taking a look at some of the drafts, and a lot of it I feel has to do with, so far, all the rest of the teams in the group have just run kind of these very passive Ezreal plus X lanes into them. And it's meant that on 3 different picks, actually, in Woolite's case, he's been able to effectively kind of have a free ride. And not only that, it's meant that Misfits have eventually been able to shift their pressure, whether it's directly through Sertuss or Shlatan as well, towards the bottom side, and they start to get resources into him, or sometimes it is just Shlatan and Sertuss straight up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are into the picks and bans. So we're looking at takeaway. We'll see, as highlighted, and something we talked about a lot yesterday is actually the Kennen being a very powerful top lane tool. We've seen them hard lose lane, and then just hard win the game, because that ultimate is such high impact. So we'll see whether or not there's any emphasis put on that here in the ban phase. We saw a couple of Relia bans. It's like something that can handle it, and obviously the Jace as well is typically considered a matchup that's pretty good versus the Kennen. So we'll see, you know, if they do put some priority towards the top side. For now, though, pretty standard there. The Ziggs ban, the Fresh ban coming through from both of these teams.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny that Misfits ban away the Ziggs, because I was wondering whether or not they would continue this, because it was Misfits that have banned now, I think, 18 games in a row Ziggs, carrying on from all the way back in. Oh no, I am thinking of Misfits. Sorry, it's because UCAM also quite frequently do ban out or get Ziggs banned away from them. I apologize, but yeah, they banned it out 18 games in a row now. And I was wondering whether UCAM would maybe lean on the Ziggs pick, because it's something that, to me, could potentially shut down the sort of bot side centric play from Misfits, where you initially just kind of have the Ziggs farm up, and he clears away the waves. It becomes very, very difficult to dive him, especially if you pair him up with supports, you know, like Rakan, which again Misfits have actually targeted out, or Braum, or Alistar, so that diving becomes a bit of an issue because there's so much TC and burst. And I think Ryze first pick, we've kind of crushed through the bans quite quickly here, makes a lot of sense. Sertuss, very, very proficient on champion, and again, it's a mid laner that can shift down to the bottom side very quickly, cheat waves and tempo with the Rell.
Yeah, absolutely. There are things that, you know, have been picked up to kind of handle that. We've seen Cassiopeia, we've seen Aziz as well. You know, kind of almost the old school band, the old school matchups into the Ryze, rear their heads. But for now, turns towards something a little bit more modern in the Viego getting picked up here for Hadess. Technically a flexible pick, but we've only really seen it as a jungler during this tournament, and I really like the fact that Hantera's had his Rakan banned against him. I think he has had some absolutely incredible games on the champion. The champion's very, very strong at the moment. We're seeing Baca's pick up here is going to be that Syndra, but again, has been flexed into the bot lane during this tournament, so is still a flexible pick, and UCAM kind of leaving their options open. Now over to the side of Misfits Premier, and we're going to see what they decide to put their attention on. Do they want to lock themselves, you know, a good support or AD, or do they want to go full bot side focus, or, you know, they have to keep in mind that they will lose out in the jungle pool if they don't pick a jungle up here in this first rotation.
Yes, but I feel like Shlatan has a deep enough champion pool to deal with it. If Misfits want to go down this route, we'll have to see, because realistically, you know, with Lee Sin banned away, if you don't lock in someone like Xin or another jungler, then like you say, the pinch will definitely come in. And there you go, the hover, I expect it to be locking, and it will. And I think it's definitely, you know, what I expect here out of Misfits. If they go down that full support route, then there is obviously the chance that you then get to pinch out one of the sort of counter matchups in the bottom side, but with Syndra being a potential flex, I think it's definitely the safer choice to just match pick for pick at the moment. But expecting now Rafitta's pick, I was gonna say maybe they just lean on the Ezreal, but I like the Varus a bit more, because now you've got a bottom lane that actually has a little bit more agency individually, one-to-one with the Varus inside of the lane, and it means that maybe 2 versus 2 Woolite and Jactroll don't just get a free ride. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, see what the next pickup is going to be for the ban phase and where the attention goes, because supports could just get heavily hammered away here and trying to force each other onto something, you know, a little less optimal. Obviously, UCAM do get first rotation, but for now, denying Agresivoo the Kennen, I think that's a pretty understandable ban here. We'll see what the answer is going to be, because the Jace is still open as a pick, but you can put in the top lane the Renekton as well. There's still lots of strong top laners in this game.
Yeah, I mean, expect a lot of these picks to sort of get whittled down here. Renekton, Jace, Gnar, loads of top lane bans. I don't think either team here wants to really pinch the support pool too hard, though we'll have to see. Maybe Misfits feel like it, but there's the Jace. I think it makes a whole bunch of sense, considering Dreedy could pretty much just get a free kind of lane here with the Kennen gone. You could just remove another lane bully that can match the range a little bit one-to-one like the Gnar, and Dreedy would have a pretty free time. Then you'd also have the poke of Jace plus Varus. A little bit too oppressive, because Misfits are lacking a little bit of engage right now, which I think is the key thing. Misfits will have to round out their composition with, and the Braum to round out UCAM's second ban phase. So for Misfits, if they want to now with the Braum banned away, they could maybe look at a Leona or an Alistar ban themselves, or just a support ban, but I think you just leave the whole sort of triangle open and you go for another top side ban here, just because you're going to have the pick of the layer anyway, but they still kind of have to respect Hantera's layer, and I think it makes sense because he's had so many good performances on these playmaking engages.
Absolutely, we'll see what they're going to pick up here.
Speaking of, okay.
I am liking that you can be proactive on the map. This is one of the things I liked about Hantera, who's very active on the map and was quite happy to leave Rafitta down on the other side. But you also have, like you said, the playmaking potential. You can start fights from a very long range with that Tempered Fate. Now we'll see what Misfits' answer is going to be to this. Obviously, typically with something like an Aphelios, you like that fresh, but it has been banned away. Could just opt towards something like an Sertuss or the Alistair here. They do still have a couple of decent supports to pick themselves up. They're going to get Agresivoo, the Renekton, get themselves a nice strong top laner in that front. We'll see what support they go for, but I do feel like maybe if you're on the side of UCAM, you could just opt in something like a Gangplank and just kind of look to play the weak side with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Still feel like Misfits are a little light on the engage. They've got pretty great skirmishing power between the Zhao and the Renekton, and there's obviously set from the Ryze. I think the Rell can definitely enable some of these melee champions, but still, in terms of like being able to kind of button press and get a fight going, Jactroll's effectively going to have to either flash or find hex flashes from Fog to get some good engages going. And when you're talking about having to deal with the scat of the week as well, you know, the Rell does have a bit of a timer in terms of that engage. It can be difficult. But moving over to Dreedy, I think the Gnar is still up and probably the best choice for him, though he may decide to match it with some scaling like the Camille. It could also be good, but I think the Gnar is probably just the safest bet here. So yeah, UCAM running out the draft with that. And I really do like the Bard pick in the sense of Hantera has the highest joint KP on the team alongside Hadess. So it is definitely a pick where you get to, you know, unlock yourself. Varus, very much an AD that can have agency by himself inside the lane. And when you're talking about laning into Rell, actually, I feel like it should be all right, as long as you don't let yourself get engaged onto in that first couple of levels. You get a wave crash, and then you start to roam around the map with this Viego. And that's how I'm expecting UCAM to play this one out. Try and get Hadess and Hantera paired up towards that mid lane in the early game.
I'm very glad that you actually mentioned the kind of zone control, the things like the scatter of the week. You obviously got the arrows to work through. You've got the Mega Gnar to play around. Obviously, Bard with his Q. If you're too close to a wall or another ally, you can get stunned up. Tempered Fate if you jump in and just your backline gets Tempered Fate while you get blown up. There's a lot of tools and a lot of things that you have to be very, very careful about on the side of Misfits Premier. Now, if they do play this right, this could snowball out of control. This could get very hard to handle. We've seen, you know, especially if this is a poke Varus, which is what you kind of expect. I think it's like 90% 90% of our Varuses are poke Varuses. You know, especially on something like a poke Varus, if you fall behind, it gets very hard to come back into. So we'll see how they're going to handle this as we're loading through onto the Summons Rift for our first game of the final day here at the group stages of the Amazon EU Masters. Group A is decided today, and we're kicking it off with the front runners. The first seed from the LFL, Misfits Premier, taking on the second seed from the Superliga in Spain, UCAM.
Yeah, and we didn't really touch too much on the Misfits composition inside the draft, so we'll do it now whilst we're in this little bit of low at the level 1. I think it's relatively telegraphed, but to be honest, Misfits have a lot of options across the board because of how much setup there is in each lane. But the tendency usually is, if they can, they will give Woolite the resources. And again, Sertuss, with that Realm Warp, once he does hit level 6, it just becomes so easy to kind of just leave lane, back up. Gonna have to have a pretty good laning phase to try and lock down this Ryze, but he's also gonna have to have Hadess kind of in his back pocket, so that Shlatan doesn't come and intervene with the lane too heavily. That's kind of the worry I have. Shlatan, with all of the setup, he can have a lot of freedom to do what he wants. Now, I don't actually think Sertuss caught that ward or the entrance from the UCAM bottom and mid laner, so could potentially be a bit of information depending on how he paths. No, doesn't look like it, unless he's in that bush. He could be on the red buff if he pathed close enough to the bottom side, and it looks like that will be the case. So the start isn't necessarily going to be spotted out. If Shlatan, of course, goes to that chicken camp after the fact, then he certainly will have to keep our eyes on the minimap to see how he wants to path. It looks like he's bringing that red buff up towards the chicken, so they will see him eventually. But both the junglers starting on reds, looks like we'll see them pathing Shlatan's case to the top side, and in Hades' case probably to the bottom side.
Hades going to be doing that full red side clear, while Shlatan going buff to buff almost, just a little bit slower. Don't get quite as much, you know, speed on that. Well, you get more speed on the rotation, but you know, you obviously don't get that camp. Does look like Shlatan will go up towards his wolves and pick that one up. Actually, no, just going straight to blue buff. So, see what the plan is here for Shlatan.
You've been pranked twice, Jake. It's actually Gromp.
He's actually got to Gromp. I'm getting like giga pranked right now.
Yeah, no, it's because obviously if you incorporate Gromp or Krugs into your first 3 camps, it will give you level 3. So it does just speed up the clear oh so slightly. But yes, junglers heading to opposite sides of the map. We still could actually see Shlatan move to the bottom side, but he's got full priority in the top side, whereas Hades actually has priority on the bottom side. Actually pinging for a top side dive potentially. Dreedy, I think, just came out of Mega Gnar. He's exhausted at the moment. The wave isn't necessarily huge, but I mean, Renekton's in Zhao. It's a lot of burst damage. Dreedy is in mini.
Waiting
like they're going to go for it.
Got the slice, they've got the dice. Let's see who starts up the aggro. Sertuss has also rotated. They played this well. They've got the rune prison. They got the lockdown. Sertuss tanking the tower. That's first blood for Shlatan. He eats the scatter the weak, but gets just enough space to get away. Baca teleports. Sertuss holds his teleport. Really, really nice play.
Yeah, this was talking about Sertuss. I mean, he gives up a wave for the play, but at the end of the day, you know, you're making Dreedy miss out on that top side wave. Yes, Baca gets it, but commit 3 to the top side, you get the dive successfully off, and you blow the mid laner's teleport. And now Sertuss is going to teleport back to the mid lane and have priority of his own, so he's going to have a little bit of tempo in a little second to maybe get some more vision down himself. He's picked up a control ward off the back of that, but really well executed dive from Sertuss, and a little bit of a different look moving to the top side, but going to walk into Hades here, get chunked out.
Yeah, it's going to go. There's a little bit of health, but that's that corrupting potion to drink on. But there is a bard in the area, taking a magical journey. Not so magical for Sertuss, as he will lose his life. One last meat slap from Hantera. That's that roaming we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfectly what we wanted to see, right? Hantera and Hades pairing up with each other, moving up towards the mid side. Pick off Sertuss, and now he's actually going to miss a fair amount of that wave. It is a cannon, so he might just about get to some of it, but instead pulls Shlatan over to eat the wave up. So great play from the UCAM jungle support, as just oh, he did actually spot him. He clipped the vision there. So maybe he wasn't expecting it. Maybe he just, from his point of view, didn't quite see the bard. Because there weren't even any pings on the minimap, it seems. So Misfits caught unaware by the roam. And Sertuss pays for it.
Probably his camera was a little bit up. Missing out on that one, unfortunately. And Woolite with the Graviton and Infernum. Been pretty comfortable to be able to contest this control ward, but not actually going to be able to deal with it himself. Shlatan is clearing out some of the vision that Hantera and Hadess were able to put down as Jactroll trying to contest vision, trying to hold his life here, but won't be able to do so. Well, it's to hold the wave, the ward even.
I think for Misfits though, controlling the bottom side vision control is going to be a really, really big thing, because if Hantera is allowed to kind of just get a little bit of freedom, even if it is moving up towards the mid lane or just into fog, right? The pressure of a support being in fog can sometimes be enough to make you yield plays. It can be a big deal, so I want to try and see Sertuss and Shlatan as a duo maybe sort of just slowly edge their way into the river, make sure they try and keep the bottom side river mostly fog for UCAM, mostly in the dark, so that Sertuss can move with a little more safety when it comes towards that bottom side.
You can see that Jactroll really wants to start something down here, but they got the Graviton from Woolite, so he can lock Hantera down. Magical Journey though, a little bit too early there. Hantera smelt that something was up. So he's just going to step away, and now Shlatan has to be a little bit careful. Is going to move backwards towards his bot lane. The 4-man collapse is potentially coming in. That's going to force the flash out from Hantera. Maybe playing a little bit of bait as Woolite's got that Graviton to work with, but jungle mid have been spotted out. Sertuss is aware this is going on. Crab's now secured. Vision has been conceded, and Misfits is going to head back to their normal lane assignments.
Hadess picked up the Skull whilst Misfits were trying to posture for a potential sort of gank or play onto the UCAM bottom side. So bit of a win there for the Spanish side, and Hadess did tick level 6 with that camper, as Shlatan still gonna need the Gromp as well after that Wolf Camp to hit 6, as Rafitta has actually got access, Chains Corruption.
Yeah, he does. He's going to throw them down as well. Jactroll heavily chunked out. They've got the heal to keep him alive just about. Woolite does a bit of damage into Rafitta, but that is going to be all he's able to do. Jactroll just about survives.
Just about, by the skin of his teeth. Doesn't blow the flash though, that's a crucial thing. Could be used for an engage later, but Baca should have the Cell Pisk out of the week.
Oh, there it is. He's got the Unleashed Power as well. Sertuss eats all of the orbs. Baca will secure himself the kill as Hadess now steals away a Ryze to help shove in this wave.
Yeah, great little bit of wave clear. As now we'll see if they want to try and transfer this into a dragon play. They've got priority on the bottom side, but the issue is Rafitta's out of mana, Hantera just reset, and so is Baca out of mana too, so he's going to go back. So UCAM just going to take the Unison reset. Good play in the mid lane. Sertuss didn't have flash from that dive onto Dreedy at level 3, so just a little bit of punishment right on time, because this flash is coming back up just now. A very well timed gank from UCAM.
Yeah,
and that Ryze still does not have his flash.
I just want to reiterate as well what this actually means for the side of Misfits and UCAM, because Misfits at the moment have the head-to-head versus UCAM. If UCAM want to keep first within their grasp, they need to win this game. If they,
want to get first at all, they have to win.
Yeah, oh yeah, they need to win. But it's, you know, this is really important for UCAM to win this game versus Misfits, because it becomes impossible for them to make first, so they need to be able to find the win. And so far, they're up in gold. They've been making some pretty good moves on the map. Hantera playing towards his normal style of rotating around. So the Chains of Corruptions lands onto Sertuss. He's rooted down. The arrow's going to do a lot of damage. He flashes away to safety. The poking, the prodding is just starting to amount to a lot here. And Sertuss very, very far behind the Ryze. Really needs some time to actually be relevant. And he's struggling.
Yeah, he is struggling. Indeed. He's been bullied a lot. He's actually substantially down in CS.
Yeah.
Around 22 to Baca. Of course, he did roam. Missed quite a few waves on the roam, and then obviously the gank that followed, and the gank after that. So it does make sense, but with that pick in mind, you know, Sertuss is coming back from base. They're starting up this Herald. But Misfits, they do not want to give up. They are posturing hard for a fight.
Hantera has that magical journey, so he can get out of the pit if he needs to. He's going to reconnect. Scatter the Weak gets flashed away. Hadess also flashes out Dreedy now, working up that Gnar bar. It's a long way from being filled. So they go for the Realm Warp onto the flank, but Dreedy just hops away. Okay, Realm Warp burnt. Rift Herald stopped, but the poke is still continuing to come down. Shlatan did a good job to jump away for the moment as Dreedy building up that Gnar bar on Jactroll. And I think Misfits are going, I don't think this is doable for us. but they know they don't want to give it up, so they are going to move back into this area once again. This time, Hantera misses out on the ultimate, lands a stun onto one, has been caught out for the moment. The ultimate comes out on Shlatan. Magical Journey makes a grand escape there for Hantera, and Misfits are able to bully their way in and secure themselves the Rift Herald.
Yeah,
They are looking for Dreedy, but Dreedy's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think the key thing, Baca was quite low on mana. I think he's regened a little bit off of something. I believe there was a plant in the river, perhaps, but didn't actually, at the time when they were on the Herald about to execute it, have enough mana really beyond the Scatter the Weak and maybe an R-Press.
Yeah.
At best, so...
I think he leveled up when he came back into lane, and his lost chapter gave him some mana.
Something like that, so... UCAM were effectively kind of fighting 4v5 there. And the bottom just about missed too, so it just didn't really quite find any impact delaying Misfits, and Misfits just played their time. I think they may have recognized themselves. Baca was out of resources. So Herald on Shlatan for now. We'll see where he wants to put it. You'd expect at this point, you know, if Sertuss wasn't so far behind, you'd maybe start to, you know, have a debate with yourself. Maybe they just put it onto Ryze, because obviously Ryze scales. And naturally, Aphelios does as well, so maybe you want to put it onto him. But Sertuss being behind, I feel like they might just put all their eggs into the Woolite basket this time around. Just get him going, as he's actually up 20 CS himself to Rafitta, so propelling that lead even further ahead in terms of gold certainly won't be a bad thing, but we'll have to see. There's no dragon on the map, so it's not necessarily going to be used as a trading tool in that sense, as UCAM just pick that one up.
Well, we'll see where they go to use it. Do they want to try and unlock some money onto Sertuss, because he is still heavily far behind. He definitely needs to get some injection of gold. He's able to, you know, catch a couple of waves here and there, but Baca got a level lead over him, got that blue buff in the inventory as well, that lost chapter. Sertuss is significantly far behind, and Hantera's just running around. Tempered Fate always ready to fire off.
Yeah, and that's actually something very important to track, where Hantera is and where Shlatan is, because Tempered Fate, of course, can stop the Rift Herald plays, so Misfits, they're going to have to do their due diligence, make sure they know where the UCAM support is, because if they, for example, just kind of walk into the lane here and drop it, then Hantera just presses Archie on the tower, Herald Gold is denied. So they've got to definitely be wary of it. As they can see him in the mid lane right now, they want to try and focus a little more on this river control, make sure they can keep vision on their side, on this bottom side.
So Hantera just wants to play with Hadess. He just wants to play around that Rift Herald. As Shlatan waiting for an opportunity to be able to place it down, but spotted out as he moves through the wave towards the top side of the map. They've actually brought Rafitta up as well, and Dreedy might find him. The Narvar's pretty heavily stacked as Shlatan finds himself the slow onto Dreedy. Shlatan is just going to step away, and Terrace just can clear out his vision.
Yeah.
The very tempered game to start us off, Jamada.
It is, but also I think just this whole sequence of play, the last sort of 30, 40 seconds, UCAM and specifically Hantera making sure that they're tracking where this Herald user is the important thing. And even just resetting here, it's like, okay, we've got a control ward here. If we see them walk in, I'm just going to cancel my recall. And now, great, I know Shlatan's up here. I can just stick around. And if Misfits decide to drop the Herald because they get a bit desperate and they want the plates, well, Hantera just R's it from about where he is. Complete safety. And that's exactly what we're going to see. And UCAM are also additionally going to respond to the play. Sertuss does have teleport, but he's got to reset first. He's out of mana if he wants to make it to the play. So Herald Charge is going to be denied.
It is a rough interaction to play around, but yeah, beautiful stuff there from Hantera, just to isolate Rafitta to make sure that this Rift Herald is a net loss to Misfits. A lot of time invested, but they are looking for Hadess. Hadess going to find himself caught out by the Magnet Storm and goes for a quick Heartbreaker, the slice, the smite, the heal, the flash, and he is out of there. They've got the Scatter of the Week. Baca's going to make sure the chicken's not taken away, at least the big one.
Yeah, and so much mobility between the three skills and summon the spell. Hadess is able to get out, does blow his flash, and Shlatan actually, in an attempt to chase him down, blows it as well. But I think the point still stands. UCAM, they deny the Herald play, and they don't really lose anything too harshly, I think is the crucial thing. And Misfits as well, a team coming into the tournament, though I don't have the numbers at hand for their first round robin performances. Coming into the tournament, they had something like a 2.2k gold lead at 15 on average throughout summer. Yeah. So UCAM kind of recognizing sometimes that does come off the back of Herald plays. So denying that with the Bard, a really, really big deal, because now Misfits, they're going to have to play at parry. There's no massive gold lead that they found themselves with, you know, sort of across the team. It's at best, you know, mostly on Baca towards Sertuss. I mean, sorry, that's the deficit. I mean, Shlatan towards Hadess maybe, or the bottom side, where Woolite, of course, was up in CS, but that CS lead is actually closing.
It is. And one thing I also want to note is, you know, they denied that Rift Out. Really nice play there by Hantera to be on the map and make sure that will get denied. But also, they traded that for the first dragon. Hadess just moved bot side and took a dragon. Now, this next dragon spawned up. It's going to be a cloud, so we'll either be looking at a mountain or an infernal soul. Infernal would be disgusting if you can get their hands on that, especially when you got, you know, the poke of this Varus.
I think both sides, really. Ryze such a
I mean, no one sneers at a...
no one ever sneers, but
soul.
I think, you know, Ryze, so many spells coming out so quickly. The Aphelios as well can definitely get a lot of Infernal procs and loves the flat AD. But Misfits for now, they're going to have priority around Dragon. They pick up the Skull as well, and I think UCAM are just going to yield this one, given their positioning.
Yeah, I think they're quite happy to give this one over as well.
Yeah.
Things are going down towards the top side as they're kind of death balling up, but Agresivoo just going to step away. The large wave, and UCAM, they're being proactive. They're not playing into a tempered fate. So if they can get the Rift out, they can actually do something pretty big with it. They're now trying to zone Rafitta off the bot side wave, and that's going to be Woolite able to pick up, you know, a lot of damage, if not the Rift Herald himself, the tower itself, but a lot of gold from those farm he'll be getting.
Yeah, and UCAM secure the Herald. They move a couple more numbers over just to make sure that Agresivoo can't sort of bully Hadess off. And Misfits can't really respond because they were making that play towards the bottom side to ensure Woolite gets some gold down there. And Herald actually summoned in the mid lane. Tower might just about be low enough to die to the charge, but the rest of the UCAM are there anyway, so we'll secure that one and could even get a second.
I think Misfits are a little bit too slow to the punch.
Yeah, this is maybe 2 towers straight up. I don't think Sertuss can defend this at all.
They're not getting a third.
No, they won't get a third
they
charge.
They are maybe getting a third charge. Sertuss has to run away. The charge is going to go down. He gets it. What?
Yeah, really good stuff from Baca, but crucial thing, though I don't like Shlatan moving into the local gold range. Woolite picked up the tier 2. Yes. So that's 300 gold plus 300 gold as well from both those towers. So 600 observers, if I may ask, to just get a quick gold check in. So we're past the 50-minute mark anyway. All of those towers means that Woolite is going to be 1,000 gold up.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what he can do with this individual gold lead. Sertuss also sitting on 1.5k in his pocket, but despite what felt like a pretty nasty deficit Sertuss was in not too long ago against Baca, he's only down 600 gold. So he's actually kind of relevant as things stand. So even though he was kind of picked on by UCAM in the early game, scaling hasn't really been thwarted too heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. Does have to be a little bit more careful now that this tower is, well, the mid lane has been opened up so wide, and it does. You do feel like this should now afford UCAM some space, but Jactroll getting pulled in by the Magnet Storm. Can he get over the wall in time? Yes, he can. Baca is there. Ignite Burn. Agresivoo, though, will take this opportunity to take the tier 1 in the top side. So at the moment, Misfits Premier, they're 3-0 on the scoreboard, and they've got 3 turrets in their pocket. Woolite's going to throw down the ultimate, gets that Gravitum off. Rafitta with the flash and the ultimate available might be a little bit risky to go for a dive, especially when he has got that Eclipse, so there's a shield that can go down from him.
Yeah, you can tell though Jactroll was really thinking about it. He went pretty much past the tier 1 before he decided to change his mind and turn around. Misfits, just a little chunk in the mid lane. 3 towers like you say, but it's that tier 1 in the mid lane, which as it stands will be a bit of a thorn in the side for Misfits. For a little bit, just because it means UCAM with so many towers in the mid lane, when they can catch the wave up high, they'll have slightly faster rotations over to the side lanes, but ever so silently, Misfits have actually creeped their way into a 1.5k gold lead, which is kind of surprising when you think about UCAM not really being too far behind on the towers, and even taking a look at the CS differences, there's nothing too crazy going on there either.
19 minutes on the clock, and Misfits are up in that gold department, but UCAM are kind of just death balling this game now. They're running around as a large unit. looking to secure fights and kills as Baca's been jumped onto. He has to flash over the wall. Everybody's going to take a magical journey except Hadess, who finds himself Woolite. He's got Dreedy, but I think that's going to be all she wrote there. He gets the slam off. Dreedy gets the Gnar back. Gets the Tempted Fate to buy some space. Everybody's locked down. Great scatter the weak. Rafitta finds the kill onto Jactroll. Woolite can't really join the fray here. He gets the Gravity off. And look at that arrow damage. My goodness.
Absolutely nasty. Great Tempered Fate to set up for that double stun. Jactroll's the only one that dies, and honestly, if Hadess is able to get his hands onto the Rell form and siphon it, I think that fight is a complete wash for Misfits. It almost is anyway. Sertuss loses his flash. Additionally, they're just forced out of their own jungle. Crucially, there's no objective immediately on the map for UCAM to take, and flicking a Baron, that kind of state, definitely not worth it. So we'll just get the reset off, and with Woolite and Sertuss resetting now, UCAM could potentially have the setup around this dragon. Be the first ones to the river. Jactroll's in the river right now. Just maybe getting some vision down as early as he can, but it can very easily be swept away once UCAM return to the map, and it looks like they should be the first ones down here. And of course, he didn't touch on it. Don't believe Mount It will be the soul if we do get to that point. Not the Infernal.
Still a nice one, especially for Misfits when you're playing into a poke Varus. There's extra, there is shielding and stuff will be hard to handle, but now Sertuss has to be careful. Dreedy though, he might be in trouble. Can he go over the wall in time? I don't think he can. Woolite kills him. Bit of a strange one there from Woolite. Sorry, from Dreedy.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Woolite's probably also thinking it's a bit strange.
Yeah, I think he is. Bit of a mistake. I'm not sure if he meant to hop on the head there of, I believe it was the Bard, which propelled him a little bit further than he maybe wanted to go. And couldn't quite hit that mega point in time either. So Misfits pick up a free dragon off the back of a little bit of an error from the UCAM top laner. And
we call those a whoopsie poopsie.
A whoopsie poopsie. All right, trust you to talk about poop.
There's the Graviton. I'm going to shut this one down. Shlatan not going to be able to step forward and almost getting themselves caught.
Almost, but I think Misfits get the job done almost for the most part. One good wave in the mid lane should be enough to lock down that mid tier 1. One thing I haven't really touched on too heavily this game is actually the overall scaling of it. I think Misfits 1-to-1 in general, obviously the champions. Ryze obviously does outscale Syndra in most cases, and Aphelios can put out some pretty crazy damage. Just more if Varus can obviously keep his distance more than anything can. If the fights are prolonged, Misfits of course limited engage options, so if UCAM can keep the French team at bay and allow Rafitta to get some poke down, then maybe they can find a little bit of success in team fights or just around Baron areas. I think overall, if you can play to their conditions, they've got enough disengage and enough poke that they can definitely make Misfits kind of sweat, but Misfits are allowed to get on top of UCAM with not too much trouble, then I fear Misfits will definitely have a much easier time if you're rooting for the Spanish team here, as UCAM making an advance up in the mid lane. Of course, no tier 1 or 2 to worry about, so catching this wave up high means they can rotate over to their side of choice a little bit easier. Misfits will have to respond to the wave before they can actually match that rotation, but as you can see, Woolite with the Runans and the Infernum clears out the wave quite quickly, so not a lot of time really for UCAM. Yeah, I agree. Rafitta online, 2 items.
Yep, there it is. The Muramana and the Eclipse coming in really nice here. Might see some emphasis on a bit of a Serpent's Fang for Rafitta. So he does find the chains off on to Shlatan. Shlatan gets the ult off as they get the chains. He just can't move! He can't move! They're not taking it. He's taking it! Hantera has to jump away, gets a shield off for the moment. Hadess looks for the stun. Shlatan gets away with murder, but Hantera, that was some pretty crazy stuff. As Baca actually looking to hunt forward here, misses the scatter the weak. Shlatan gonna have to cancel the base to make sure Baca doesn't chase any further. Oof.
Choppy stuff for Shlatan there. Doesn't have the Merc Treads or anything like that. Has the Ninja Dabi, so he wasn't really able to move for a lot longer than he would have probably liked. Had to flash away there. And Hantera gets a little bit too antsy as well. Ends up taking the pull to blow his own flash. But again, right, talking about the kind of range that UCAM can keep with a lot of this chain CC, Chains of Corruption, Scout of the Week. Even the Cosmic Bindings can have a lot of range. That's what UCAM are going to have to play at, because if Sertuss or Woolite are allowed to get on top of their carries, or what limited frontline they do have, they will just shred them outright. It'll be very difficult for UCAM to play out these team fights, and I think Misfits probably know that and are going to do their best to try and bring UCAM into them. Maybe try and set up some pockets of fog so that Jactroll can slip into decent flank angles, perhaps. Get those crash downs into those ultimates as well. As actually, I think Misfits started up the Baron, yeah.
4 turrets apiece. Dreedy's built up the Gnar bar pretty significantly, has the teleport. You can only think that Misfits' game plan is to force the teleport out. Absolutely the game plan is in comes Dreedy. He might look for Jactroll here. He does have the flash, but Jactroll able to make himself the way to escape as Hadess jumps in forwards. Dreedy, Gnar bar available. Look for Agresivoo over the wall. Hadess actually gets jumped into as Mega Gnar times out. Oh my word, Shlatan's climbed up. Good Graviton though to follow up. They get a great ulti from Hantera to lock everybody else down. Sertuss with the Everfrost and out to bounce a fair amount of damage back around, but Baca low on mana. That might just be it. A singular pick for the side of UCAM, but they have the inside track on this mid lane. They're not going to hang around for it. 30 seconds until the dragon spawns up. Want to get those resets and get back on the map in time.
Yeah, I think for UCAM, this is a point in time where they just have so many options, right? If they want, they could maybe turn to the Baron because all of the ultimates are realistically down on the Misfits side. But again, if you're trapping yourself in the Baron, you're giving Misfits the opportunity to walk on top of you with that Ryze and the Aphelios. So definitely a risky choice. The mid lane was also open if they wanted it, but also the Dragon, I think, is what they may be concerned about. Mountain Souls, or just Mountain Dragons, getting those added resistances really hurts Lethality champions like that Varus, obviously. And a Syndra who wants to, you know, not deal with many resistances at all so she can blow up the high value targets. You can understand the priority to go for the reset, but Misfits are still the first one in front of the Dragon, so they're gonna have to work through this choke. It's like Misfits are gonna allow them the entrance anyway, but in fact, Misfits kind of going maybe the Scenic route over the Blast Cone maybe. Try and get themselves positioning, but Agresivoo
does get engaged onto. Look at Dreedy's Gnar bar. They need to CC him before he goes big. Looking for the opening. Woolite is going to flash away. Jumps away to safety. There's the temper fame onto one. Sertuss locked in place, but Hadess able to find Jactroll. Dreedy's still alive. Finally goes down. It's a 1-for-1 so far, but the chains are spreading. The damage is spreading. They've still got a lot to work with here as Hadess jumps out. Moonlight Visual Line back. It's going to get blown up. What a stopwatch. Unleash power. Agresivoo goes down, and it just crumbles for Misfits. Premier, the full ace for the side of UCAM. Don't look at the Rafitta, Dragon to boot. What a fight!
UCAM played that one out phenomenally. They play time Dreedy as well, forces Woolite to have to flash away from this Gnar so he doesn't get stunned up. And that's the crucial thing, because once the re-engage comes in a couple seconds time, after Jactroll loses his life and also Dreedy loses his life, it means that on the sort of 4v4 that they have, he doesn't really have it to flash away from the Chains of Corruption or any of this damage. And what a beautiful stopwatch from Baca to stop any follow-up damage. Sertuss thinks he has an in with that flash on the Graviton, but he stops all of the follow-up that can come through. Drops the ultimate. Ryze doesn't get to play the game. Woolite already chunked out, flashless, can't make any kind of aggressive play. Which means that UCAM have such a free time on that fight, and follow up to it as well. Not just that Mountain Dragon, the Baron to boot. So they're going to have so much map pressure. 2 outer towers as well on the side lanes, or inner towers rather, on the side lanes to actually pull down too. It's 1.2k just between those 2 towers and that mid lane tower as well. The inhib tower is so low. Become a lot of options during this Baron duration. And as long as they can just play range, right? Allow Rafitta to poke. That was kind of what won them a lot of that fight. Woolite poked down so low, and Dreedy really well played to zone him out. Blow that flash, it just meant he couldn't really get to play the game. Become now lane of choice to pick.
It's an interesting one as well, because you know, as we get later and later, the the Mountain Soul kind of becomes less impactful. And with both teams having 2 dragons, it means that realistically, odds are Soul's not going to be overly impactful. It's just going to be a nicety. But finding a team fight win, slowing it down a little bit, that's going to be lovely for UCAM. It's going to be about Elder if we can somehow get that late. The game is now starting to pick up a little bit of tempo as UCAM got the Baron. They're going to look to try and crack open this mid lane turret. They started up oh so long ago with Shelly. Down it goes. The side lane also already been started up by Dreedy. He's able to pick that one up. And it's a siege on 2 fronts. But Misfits Premier need to play around, and when you got a Ryze, he typically struggles into the extra magic resist that these minions get. So it's going to be more on Woolite, Shlatan to handle those, as Hadess is going to got that.
Woolite.
Wow, Woolite.
Chucked out. He's got to go back to base, and I mean, yeah, I know I'm almost speechless, but we got to talk over it, Jake. UCAM gonna get that first top lane inhibitor. Should also secure the second one. I mean, Misfits, they're kind of running out of time if UCAM keep on playing the game like this.
It's getting harder. They're going to throw out the Moonlight Vigil from Woolite. Dreedy locked down as he goes mini. They've still got the Baron minions to work at. Someone has to answer with these ones on the siege in the tower as well. Don't have to worry about bot side for now, but UCAM, they're feeling it a little bit. They want to keep the siege up. They've got another line of minions making their way forward. They've got the wave clear, and Sertuss just doesn't do the damage to clear through these waves fast enough. So UCAM, though, they're in a pretty good spot here. The super minions are on the rift. They've got a little bit more time before the Baron time's out.
Woolite's got
And they might just be able to take a Nexus tower here.
Yeah, they've
Maybe 2. They've got a lot of cannon waves as they're jumping in. Magnus on great scan to the wing. Tempting fingers on the Shlatan. Now can they find it? Agresivoo knocks back. Can't even get close to the fight. The zone control we talked about is just way too much for Misfits. They can't step forward here as the Scatterwing goes wide. Shlatan will get blown up by the ulti. That should just be the game. Hadess flashes out to safety. The Nexus have been laid bare for UCAM to close this game out. They're jumping into Sertuss' face. He can stop what all he likes, but his team can't even get close enough to save the day, to save his life. 31 minutes on the clock, and UCAM will take Misfits down for the first time in the group stage.
Yeah, and not only that, keep their hopes of making it to that first seed spot alive. Misfits Premier, you know, we spoke about the scaling aspects of their composition, right? The Ryze and the Aphelios, once they obviously got to a certain point, they would be able to deal damage. But the crucial thing is, because the lack of engage that Misfits had from their draft, it meant that getting on top of them was a bit of an issue. And not only that, you know, the limited engage that they have via the Rell, very easy to shut down with things like with the Bard, like the Syndra. And it just happened consistently to the point where UCAM just set up shop, allowed Rafitta in those sort of back end 3, maybe 4 fights to just layer in piercing arrow after piercing arrow, and then just played the zoning control game in the fights. Just consistently peel back, never allowed the damage dealers of Misfits to actually hit your carries. And it just made life so much easier. And once that Baron went down, they just about ended, I think, within the duration. So Misfits, a lot to think about moving forward on today, but UCAM, massive win for them because now, you know, they pick up 2 more wins. Very strong chance they can make it to first seed.
I mean, this shakes things up. We'll talk a little bit more about that game, but for now, we're going to throw to a quick break. When we're back, we'll have a little bit more of a discussion about UCAM versus Misfits Premier. So we'll see in a moment.
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the Baron. How does that connect by entering?
Dreedy!
That's EU Masters Champions.
welcome back to the Amazonian Masters. We're going to be breaking down the battle for first as UCAM take out the previously undefeated Misfits Premier. And, you know, it was definitely a slower game than what we've had in our more recent games. But overall, Jamada, that was a pretty clean game from UCAM once they picked up the pace.
Yeah, I think so. Even down to the draft, I feel like UCAM very clearly came in with a bit of a plan. I don't think they necessarily got to maybe pick on Sertuss as much as they would have liked, you know, with the pairing of this Bard plus the Viego. But at the end of the day, you know, they did it once here. They made him miss a couple of waves. I'm not sure if they shove out that or it was frozen, but, you know, from there, Sertuss was not really too relevant, couldn't really attack the side lanes very frequently, and this was the big fight, right? Dreedy forced the flash out of Woolite. Woolite now has no flash, and, you know, not really getting on top of too many of the carries, Woolite or Sertuss, you can see just zoned out consistently, chunked out too. And now once the re-engage comes in from the Gravitum and then also a Flash Rune Prison, you know, Woolite doesn't have Flash to really get aggressive or the HP bar because he's been chunked out. Sertuss removed in this fight. And just in general, I think UCAM, once they got the pace going, they kind of understood Misfits' limited range of engage. They just played it fantastically and just consistently allowed Rafitta to, you know, do his thing with the poke. And then once Misfits got desperate, tried to engage, played the disengage perfectly.
The zone control was just perfectly displayed in the latter half of this game. It felt like as we got later and later, I mean, look at this. They're trying to get onto Sertuss to save his life, but they die on the way in while he's in stasis from the stopwatch. The gold graph really kind of tells you the tale of the game as well, actually. It was slow, it was close. 2,000 gold was the peak for Misfits Premier, and then all it took was one decisive fight, and this game blew open. I heard you say, look at that. I'm assuming it's the AD carry damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, again, right, up until this point, Misfits had only laned Woolite into Ezreal plus, I think, Karma and Rakan, right? Very passive lanes that don't really get to shut down the enemy AD carry or the 2v2 often. And this time around, obviously, yes, it wasn't necessarily a 2v2 natured bottom side, but it wasn't just a lane where they get to play the game for free. You know, Varus laid in at least a little bit of pressure in the early stage, right? Woolite, I believe, fell a little bit behind in the CS department. And of course, with Woolite not being able to get ahead, with Misfits not already being able to lean on their AD carry this game, or really Sertuss either, both shut down by UCAM, it means UCAM now even out the score 3-1 with Misfits Premier on the top side of the table.
This really means the Go Rogue game versus UCAM later is going to be very important because, you know, we could see Go Rogue slingshot themselves back in if they win versus an Northsys in their next game, which is our game 2 of the day. And then after that, Go Rogue are playing versus UCAM. So if they can find themselves 2 wins back to back, they're now in a running. It's a really, really big winning for them in the sense that UCAM have now kind of kept this somewhat relevant for themselves. But we could have honestly, if it's a bad week for Misfits, they could be in a scary position. And our next game is going to be an Northsys taking on a Go Rogue. So we're going to throw to a break, and when we're back with that game, so we'll see you in a moment.